怒りを叫べ悲しみを叫べ魂を叫べ今ここで叫べ
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Yokai Delinquents podcast. I am Sean, bearded Kappa Litton.
And I am Jerry Robo-Tengu Smith. How's it going, Sean?
It is going great, Jerry, and it's another good day because we have a special guest with us today. Today we have, you heard him a little bit, bring him in. We have our good buddy Nick Helms joining us on the podcast. Nick, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody.
We brought Nick on. If listened to this, you hopefully listened to our last episode. We were talking about a particular Kickstarter. So his name should be relevant to you, but as well as we've just been wanting to bring him on the show anyway, because he is, much like us, a lover of all things nerdery. Nick, why don't you tell the good listeners out there a little bit about yourself?
So my name's Nick Helms. I am half of Original Geek Comics. Currently, we have a Kickstarter going for our first comic, Vengeance Emergence, issue number 1, which, so that's been going good. I think Sean has a little bit input in that since he did a variant cover for that.
A little bit.
And Jerry didn't do anything.
Yeah,
so
no.
Listen,
I am supporting. I am the main support here.
Yeah, he is.
Jerry's
support.
the support team.
Yeah, moral support. I'm you guys' cheerleader.
Yeah,
we need cheerleaders, man.
You could do it. I believe in you.
See, he's that guy that's in the party raiding the giant monster boss, who's way in the back, giving us minimal buffs because he didn't bother to farm up the good armor and skills, but he's still there in spirit.
I'm basically just bullshitting in the background, doing emotes, like cheering and dancing and stuff.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you're a Fortnite character. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn. He brought the Fortnite. Well, all right. Well, Nick, thank you for coming on board with us, man. And as per our tradition with any guest, you get the choice of first topic, so you better make it a good one. Nick, what do you want to talk about today?
Okay, let's just talk bad about Jerry the whole episode. No, I'm just kidding.
Can do.
Listen, I got you guys beat. I'm really good at this. I've practiced my whole life.
I was like, yay, let's beat down Jerry. Yay, that's what I want to do. No, man. So let's see. I listened to the show, so I'm like trying to think of a topic. I was trying to think of a topic that you guys haven't talked about. So a show just came out not too long ago on Amazon. I don't know if anyone heard of it, but it's called Invincible. I don't know if anyone heard that, but a little known show.
It made some small bumps out there, I think.
And so before the show came out, I knew I had saw the trailer or whatever, and I decided, or I saw that we had the first compendium at Retrograde Comics, where I buy my comic book set, and we had the first compendium. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna buy this, and I think Evan sent Jerry a picture of it or something like that, because I knew Jerry knew a little bit about it, so I blew through that first compendium in like a week, and then I bought the second two, the second one and the third one, and man, Invincible has got to be like one of the best superhero comics I think I've ever read. It's definitely in my top 5 series of anything that I've ever read, and I just want to talk about how awesome that the Amazon show, Robert Kirkman, man, he's a genius,
Right.
Yeah.
And he made a beautiful story, and I really like how Amazon the series took from the comics, but then also made it its own. And so I thought maybe we could talk about how the difference in those, and what are some other good examples of series that took from the comics, wherever they pulled from, and did a good job, and maybe talk about some ones that didn't.
Yeah. Oh
That's
yeah.
odd. I want
I'm
to see
I'm
what you
definitely up
guys
for this.
thought.
My like one of my opinions that people don't really get a lot because one of his other things have been around a lot longer is arguably, in my opinion, Invincible's the better Robert Kirkman story, like over
Oh,
Walking Dead, in my opinion.
Oh, for
It's an
sure.
unpopular opinion, but I've read both and I've watched the majority of both, or a majority. That's laughable. But yeah, no, I would recommend Invincible 10 times over Walking Dead any day. Just the way that he treats it. Not to mention, I might be biased because I'm a little over zombies, so it's got to be like a really interesting take on zombies for me to even pick it up. But
right.
and I mean, he had an interesting take on it and everything, and the characters were interesting in that. But like for this, just everything he did with the characters, especially the way he did the heroes' interaction with the villains, specifically Invincible's interaction with the villains throughout the series, was I think what really pulled me in, and not to mention their whole like how they touch on like certain issues of being a superhero and just how things kind of like got rolling in that series because whenever you at first glance when you first read that very first issue, you kind of just feel like, okay, this seems pretty standard. It's just a superhero story and a coming to age thing, but like it pretty quickly like flips it on its head and gives you like this um all this sense of responsibility that comes with being a hero, and like people are legit like dying and they're talking about the collateral damage and stuff like that pretty early on, and then like the purpose of the villains for doing the stuff that they do, it just becomes like this immediate sense of responsibility, especially on the level that Omni-Man and Invincible's power set are. It's just too strong for this world, really.
Right. Yeah. Now I'll say this. Jerry, you lent me. I think we may have talked about it before when we brought up Invisible. You lent me the first
Hmm.
compendium millennium ago, and I
Hmm.
long before the show came out, and I did attempt to read, and I got no excuses, man. I made it about halfway through the compendium, maybe a little less,
Hmm.
and I lost
Hmm.
interest. And
Hmm.
it's been long enough to where I don't remember if it. Cause I think you brought up, and maybe Nick will agree that compared to like the show, the comic has a much
Hmm.
different pacing, and
Hmm.
maybe I don't know. This wasn't drawn. The comic didn't draw me in, but I do want to.
Yeah.
After really loving the show, I kind of want to revisit now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's completely understandable. It's also kind of interesting. I want to kind of throw out there the creative team. Of course, you got Robert Kirkman created and writing. They started off with the artist Corey Walker, and I think this was one of the earliest things that he had worked on. But he couldn't really keep up with the schedule, so they brought in Ryan Otley later, which I think was a phenomenal choice. And this was really like some work that kind of defined Ryan Otley's career for like better or worst.
Right.
Better, I say, because like his stuff in Invincible was amazing, but now it's kind of like one of those points of like whenever I read anything else that he's done that's not Invincible, I'm like, man, this looks too much like Invincible. Like he did the art in Amazing Spider-Man not too long ago, and I was just like, man, I can't help but like looking at Peter Parker and just seeing Invincible every time I see him.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, and I can kind of understand like where you're coming from on that. It is interesting because that's in your like wheelhouse, and I think they actually was it. No, maybe it wasn't in that that they referenced like Savage Dragon in comic book format. I wouldn't be surprised though.
Hmm.
I think they did in the show though. I feel like there was a scene where there were a bunch of comics and I saw Savage Dragon. I can't
Oh,
remember,
I might
but
have
it makes
missed
sense
that.
because they're both in Image.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'd really like that. We could get, and it's the thing that we're always raving about that we love about manga, that I felt like should have been a good pulling interest for you, which maybe now it is, but it's like a single creator and artist on
Right.
this title for its entire life.
Right. Well,
Um,
like
yeah.
Nick, what do you think? Someone who like again, I did read a bit of the book beforehand, but I really enjoyed the show. Do you think anyone else who maybe only saw the show first is going to read the book and maybe feel the same pace and issues?
I'm not really for sure. I mean, I didn't get that pacing issue
Okay,
when I
okay.
read it, but I don't know.
Mhm.
But I do see the thing is, I actually think of that, like Jerry, I
Mhm.
think that Invincible is better than Walking Dead, and I kind of have that pacing type issue to me, like that. And I'm reading The Walking Dead Deluxe right now,
Right.
Mhm.
every other week, which is basically The Walking Dead but in color, because I never read The Walking Dead when it was coming out.
Right.
Mhm.
So, I watched a show and then I've read some of the books. So I thought whenever they were doing The Walking Dead Deluxe that I would hop on it. And it's always the last book I read every every week on my
Right.
pulls. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm just reading it just to read it. So,
Right. But I will
but
agree. I was going to say, I will agree. Now, I started with the trades and eventually got on to the monthly with Walking Dead. I've read it all. And even though I didn't necessarily get into Invincible while reading it, from what Jerry and others have told me about the story and from what I've already seen from the show, I'll agree 100%. Even though I really fell into The Walking Dead, the repetition, even for me, started getting old. And I'm a guy who watches the same horror movies over and over. Even a different film, but like they're
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
same story every time. But like even Walking Dead got repetitious, while Invincible really took the genre and flipped it on its head from what I've seen and what I understand about, especially what happens way later into the books. So I'll definitely
yeah,
agree that. Yeah, go ahead.
you got to get way into that. You really got to get past that through that first half of that
Mhm.
compendium, because after, like, in the later half of it, and then like even and then in the second and third, it's just on a whole completely different level. And
Right.
I was gonna just mention, because I actually was gonna mention Savage Dragon,
Woo.
because believe that Savage Dragon's actually in some of the issues of Invincible
Oh,
later on,
really?
because they
Ah,
have yeah, because they have like a bunch of like the more stakes get going, and then the Invincible War and the war against the Viltrumites and
Oh,
stuff like
yeah.
that. And then you see all these other characters like from other Kirkman series, like
Mhm.
Tech Jacket and um, Brit and stuff like that.
Oh, yes.
You
Yeah.
see all as when more they do that, and then there's like get to a point where you're seeing other people from Image, and I
Mhm.
know Savage Dragon is in there, and like he's on a team of
Uh,
some
oh
sorts.
wow.
does
Okay.
I don't really remember it, but does Spawn make an appearance too?
I want to say yes, but I'm
Yeah.
not 100% accurate.
Right.
Look, nobody cares
My
about
in
Spawn.
my
Back to
understanding.
Savage Dragon appeared in the comic, which
Mhm.
means there's a possibility of him showing up in the show. Now,
Mm.
that's
It's true.
funny because you mentioned it because I do remember now you're saying that reminded me, and I thought maybe he was talking about in his comic. Eric Larson had mentioned about he'd be up for Savage Dragon crossover with Invincible. I guess
Mhm.
now I know that happened already in the comic. That maybe he was talking about the
Mhm.
show, which I've been already
Mm.
saying with the success of the R-rated cartoon that is Invincible. Savage
Mhm.
Dragon would be a perfect follow-up, I think, to kind of
Oh,
keep riding that Image turned adult cartoon on
right.
Amazon train hype right now. I would say, well, I get that Savage Dragon isn't necessarily for everybody on the comic wise.
Mm.
I think like while definitely not as I don't know. I love it. That's been very clear.
Yeah.
Anyone who listens to the show, but it's like I don't know. As I'm trying to say, like, well, it's not quite as in deep with the whole, the father and all that kind of stuff. Well, but there actually is some elements of that in Savage Dragon. There's especially
Yeah.
if they go into kind of speeding up into his son, who's now the Savage Dragon of the main Savage Dragon of the book. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think there's potential in there, but I might be alone in that. I think that could be a very easily adapted book as well into animated
Yeah.
format, which they already tried once in the long forgotten USA Network cartoon series that we're not going to bring up.
I mean, and it's funny you mentioned that because the first Image comic that I feel like got a animated series was Spawn, like way the fuck
Oh, it
back in the
absolutely
day.
did.
Yeah, yeah. But something that I think would work really good in the animated format that I would honestly love to see is Usagi. I think that
Oh,
would be
oh
really,
yes, and you
really
know
good,
what's happening,
really
right?
well done.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 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 that's right. That
Netflix
is
is
happening.
producing one,
Yeah,
and I'm trying to stay positive. I'm trying to stay hopeful.
yeah.
Stan Sakai is supposed to be involved, so fingers
Hmm.
crossed. I'm hoping for a damn good adaptation, which Netflix has
Right.
done good adaptations of comics and
Hmm.
whatnot. Did either
Yeah.
of you read Umbrella Academy? Because I've been told like that show is actually
Mhm.
better than the comic as far as like character
Really?
depth and portrayals, I guess. I don't know. I've
Hmm.
never read Umbrella Academy. Have either of y'all?
Yeah, I
Um,
still haven't. I've been meaning to pick up the comic since it, popped up just to see how it went.
Right. Nick?
I have the first trade. I haven't read it yet. I was going to read it before, one time, soon after the show came out, but like
Mm,
the art style kind of threw me off, and
Right.
so I was
mhm.
like, because I kind of just flipped through it, and I was like, I don't know, the drawings of the kids seem weird, and people they like seem really small, looking like little midgets or
They're
something,
very
and it kind of just
stylized, yeah.
like it was very stylized, and it kind of threw me off, and like I have a very thing about art, and
Right.
so but I have it, and I plan on reading it,
Mm,
but I just haven't forced myself to
I,
do it
I,
yet.
I
yeah.
I would like to check it out as well. I mean, a lot of these comic book shows, like even Jupiter's Legacy, which granted I already got the axe, but I was
Mhm.
enjoying it for. I think I didn't get to the last two episodes, but once it got canceled, kind of like when we talked about with Swamp Thing on the DC network, it's kind of like once it's over, it's like, well, do I want to invest further time? But like, I wouldn't mind going
Mhm.
back because like I like to objectively be able to compare,
Mhm.
the source material because if it's a good adaptation, or sometimes, from my understanding of Umbrella Academy, even a better adaptation of the story, I like that comparison. I like to be able to see it. Just I'm not one of those like not all the time, often, unfortunately,
Mhm.
with adaptations. I don't want to be like, well, it's not as good as the book, which of course it never is. But when it
Mhm.
is, it's so worth it. So I do like to always try to find the source material, something I've truly enjoyed. And Umbrella Academy, I
Yeah.
really like that Netflix show. So I need to pick up
Mhm.
those trades eventually myself.
Man,
You need
and
to
Swamp
watch
Swamp
Swamp
Thing
Thing.
was yeah, Swamp Thing
Sorry.
was so good.
Yeah,
I'm
I
I'm
know,
so
but
bitter
man,
that it ended. And then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna put it on CW," and I'm basically like the Anakin Padme meme with with another season, right? With the new s- with the new season, right? Yeah,
And then
it's
Anakin's just
it's
like
not happening.
stone
Yeah,
face.
yep.
yeah.
Uh, hey,
Kind of going back to Invincible though.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say he had a 5 second cameo in Crisis Event or something. I think. That's
That's
all I
true.
had. That's all I had.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Gag over.
Yeah.
But no. Yeah. Going back to Invincible, because so halfway through that compendium is whenever you get the Nolan Mark confrontation, right? Nick, it's been so long since I've read Invincible.
It's about there's 20, let me see, there's how many issues are in that? 40. And the Nolan Mark thing happens at what, 12, 11, something like that. So
Somewhere
I
around
mean,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a fourth way through, but I mean, if you haven't even got to Conquest yet,
Yeah.
bro,
Yeah.
Oh
I
man.
might have. I
Yeah.
may have dropped
Yeah.
off before then, to be honest. So
It's
maybe not even
it's
halfway. Yeah.
honestly, yeah, like whenever they start bringing in, I don't want to like spoil anything for people
Right.
that
Right.
are watching the show or for Sean for that
Yeah.
matter,
True.
because I like honestly this is something that I've like begged people to read while I worked at the comic book store, and it was always such a hard pull because people were kind of like on the fence about superheroes, especially stuff that's like from independent comics. Um, that's not like Marvel or DC. So it's kind of one of those things of like I'm so excited to for people just to see like the sheer like horror that they're like in for throughout this series and like just the struggle of all the characters and everything going forward. And it just gets brutal, and I'm really wondering what they're going to bring into it, what they're going to keep, what they're going to cut out, because there's some like really sensitive stuff throughout this series that I like would not be surprised if they cut it or change it or something like that, just because of the political climate that we live in today, and not to mention some of it's just like kind of hard to watch as it happened, because I remember like a very specific issue that's like, oh, this is yeesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I know the one you're
it's
talking
kind
about.
of go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was
Yeah.
throwing. I do know what you're talking about because you did. Because again, you were like, "Are you
Mhm.
ever going to read this?" I'm like, "Probably not." I didn't
Yeah.
get into it, and you talked about it
Yeah.
as it was happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could see them not, but I could also
Mhm.
see them keeping it in and handling it as well as the book did. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if it's handled well, I could see some backlash, but I think if it's done
Mhm.
right, like it was in the book from what you've told me, I think it 100% should be in the show.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just it just really I mean I could honestly see it happening because it's
Mhm.
Amazon.
Right.
Mhm.
Amazon doing it. If any other streaming service wasn't doing it, was doing the show, then I would say probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But
That's true.
Amazon doing the show, I mean, they have the boys, so I
Right.
mean, like I mean,
Well, so yeah, just kind of like getting into other comics that have been turned into TV shows. Which one that I just finished that I will say is pretty different. Sweet Tooth. I know Sean hasn't watched it yet, right,
I
Sean?
have not yet, but I keep saying I was going to wait, watch it with the wife.
Yeah,
She's running
yeah.
out of time. I'm going to watch it soon.
Have you watched it yet, Nick?
okay, I'm a few episodes in. I never read the original book. I've only read the Sweet Tooth: The Return, which is the new series that just came
Ah.
out. So,
I haven't started that yet, but I don't know with how my comic collecting is nowadays. There's like very few things that I actually like want to go in and pick up, and for everything else, I'm picking up in collected editions. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do with that. And I'm even more excited about it now because we finished the show. It inspired me to reread the comic, so I picked up the omnibus for it. And that was one that kind of ended, so I got to read the whole thing in trade paperback formats by Jeff Lemire. It's fucking amazing. But it is fairly different. The show is fairly different than the comics. They take some,
Oh,
creative changes, but and it's a little bit more lighthearted, Netflix and all that. But I would honestly say that I would recommend both. I like them both pretty equally, and I can definitely tell where Jeff Lemire's influence came into the show and everything like that. But yeah, and I don't really know because someone asked me the other day. They're like, which would you recommend someone read the comic first and then watch the show, or vice versa? And I honestly am not really sure. I would almost say just read the comic first, so you would get that take on it and then watch the show. Is probably the route I would go for it. But I don't think it would really matter. It wouldn't hinder your viewing of either or.
right. And I think, and that's
Yeah.
that's actually a really common question for people who are interested in a show. They also know it's based on a book. And us comic
Hmm.
nerds, I know I get asked a lot, like well, what should I
Hmm.
watch? And if I've seen enough to know like how faithful an adaptation it is, or how different, but still keeping in the vein of like say Walking Dead, which had a
Hmm.
lot of like character deaths change in the show versus the comic. Some of it due to just their changes that Kirkman would have implemented if he had known that Walking Dead would have lasted as long as it did in comic book form. Others were just actors
Hmm.
saying, "I want off the show," So
Right.
those are two different enough to where I would also say, like, yeah, you could watch it first, and go read it, then go watch it. I think if you
Hmm.
read it first, you'll tend to get spoiled. I think if you read like the
Hmm.
source material, then watch the show, like my wife couldn't get into it because she loved the comics and just did not like any of the changes, even the ones that I think were improvements over the book. But she
Right.
but she was
Right.
just nope, nope. The books are far superior. But like
Hmm.
Preacher, a no,
Yeah.
the TV
Yeah.
adaptation, which for AMC, which pushes boundaries. It's no HBO or no Amazon. I think,
Hmm.
and I still need to go back and finish that last season of it. I think while they made a lot of changes, I think it kept the spirit of Preacher in the show to make it
Hmm.
a good enough show to watch. I think if you watch the show and then you're prepared to go in a lot deeper with some Garth Ennis being Garth Ennis, I would
Hmm.
honestly say watch the show first and then dive deep, because the comic can get so damn mature and dark and everything. It may turn you off from wanting to watch the show or even finish the book.
Hmm.
And like
I can see
sorry,
that.
go ahead.
No, 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 you're good. Keep going.
I was just gonna say, like, I also understand that about the boys, like how the comic and
Hmm.
the show are very different, but I don't really know. I haven't read that one, but that's being another
Right.
Enos property.
Right.
the
Uh.
only thing I know on that one is that, well, the boys I haven't read all of it, but
Hmm.
the wife, his Billy Butcher's wife,
Mm.
actually died, but she was in the
Yeah.
second season.
Oh,
Hmm.
right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm kind of there. I think one of my biggest things for the show that I wish that they would have like, brought in or kept in. I don't know why they didn't necessarily, but I'm sure they could, easily bring it in season 3 is Billy Butcher's dog. I remember him being a really great part of the
Oh,
comic.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because I think the dog had some kind of interesting like super qualities about it as well.
Oh,
Yeah, which was interesting. Um, but I mean, as far as like the nitty gritty and like adult content, I feel like they nail it pretty fucking well in the series. There are some things that they're like, I don't know. I think that they kind of glance away from, but I think it hits the tone of or not Preacher, the boys pretty well.
yeah,
And they like absolutely nailed like all the characters. I feel like
right.
from the comic.
Our buddy Craig, actually, he
Mhm,
once the show started, he has all the trades, so he actually went back and
mhm,
reread it, and he was like going back and rereading it, which I will say that as much as I do love Garth Ennis, particularly Preacher,
mhm.
some of his style of writing and his stuff doesn't always hold up well, and apparently that's the boys
Right.
for Craig.
Mhm,
He actually said the
mhm.
show is much better than the actual
Yeah.
original books, so that's something
Yeah.
to take
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. I actually have all of the trade paperbacks, and I need to dig them out and just reread it. But yeah, I could definitely feel that like especially late '90s, early 2000s, where like people like Grant Morrison, Garth Ennis, like really. Oh, and what was it? Mark Millar,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
Frank Miller, even like they really were kind of in that line or past that line of being like over the top and edgy and
Oh
using certain language that it's like that's not really okay today,
yeah. Well,
you
Frank
know?
Miller just needs to sit his ass down in general. Like
Yeah.
he is. If you've seen anything in the Dark Knight 3 and just anything he's been
Hmm.
doing recently, he just needs to go ahead and just keep reminding everyone he wrote the Dark Knight Returns, which if you listen to our Southern Fried Geekery podcast back when we were on that and we did that show based on it, I think that's overhyped as fuck, personally. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to talk about some good adaptations, though? I like the animated version of it.
Oh man, that's good.
Yeah,
So
Mm-hmm.
good.
the two-part animated movies for Dark Knight Returns. I'll watch that before I ever read that book again.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
DC goes good.
we just watched part 1 of Long Halloween the other day,
Oh, I need to watch
and
that. Yes, I forgot.
I
I forgot
Dude,
that's
I
out.
I I honestly, it's been so long since I've read the comic, but the pacing felt kind of slow on it.
Oh, really?
But that just may be me. I mean, they're doing it in 2 parts.
Right.
So I don't know if that's just more of like a cash grab, so they slowed the pace down, or if maybe the pace was already that slow in the comics and I just don't remember that. But I mean, it was animated well, voice cast was amazing. It was pretty good. And honestly, I mean, I'm kind of intrigued to go back and read it because it was one of like, those all-time great stories that was written about Batman.
Yeah, that's one I haven't read. Have you read that one, Nick?
on Halloween, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's 12 issues. And just to
Mhm.
touch on that, I think it was a little slower pace
Mhm.
there, so it could. I don't know, but DC to me does great animated
Oh yeah.
adaptations.
Mhm.
Most of the ones that I've seen, except for the Hush one. I'd
Oh,
rather
really?
that they never made that one.
I hadn't watched that
Mhm.
yet. I was gonna say The Killing Joke was fucking not okay. All right. I'll say. Let me
Take out the
clarify.
first half of the
Take
Killing
out,
Joke,
yeah, to
and
where they actually adapt the comic and fuck everything else before that. Then yes, like I'm sorry, you had
it's
to
two separate movies.
you
It's two
had to
separate
give
movies.
Batman more of a reason to care about Barbara getting paralyzed, so they had to bang. That's the only mentality. That's the only line of thinking I can think why they added that. Like just being
Yeah.
Batgirl wasn't enough for him. What the fuck? It was wholly unnecessary. And
They didn't even reference it past that
no,
one part. Whenever it started going up towards the adaptation of the comic, they literally didn't reference it. There was no reason for that whatsoever. So
and
if you just literally just tell people just start here, that's when the movie actually starts. That is an entirely different movie before that, and it's Elseworlds Tale and doesn't even make sense. So don't even watch it.
and that is the best way to say it because by the time we got to the actual adaptation part, I didn't give a fuck anymore. I was like, this is, I mean, gross. I mean, I don't know. It's so weird because like I know, like it wasn't no underage thing. It wasn't no like we're not trying to bring up the whole like the mentor student thing, which can I think adds a little bit to the ickiness of it. But like I don't know, it's never been a thing to my knowledge of Batgirl having any feeling for Batman. And now she can't leave
No.
Dick Grayson alone. Her and Starfire are always fighting over him. But like,
And I saw that in theaters too, man. And I was just like, because I bought a ticket because I was like, oh, The Killing Joke, it's gonna be in
Right.
theaters. I'm gonna go watch it. And I was just like, what the fuck is this?
No, no.
No,
I didn't know
my
they got
eyes.
I didn't know they got a theatrical release. I didn't know any of these actually
Yeah.
ever did. That's actually pretty cool. I would love to see like the Dark Knight 1 and 2 in theater. Or
Well, unfortunately, The Killing Joke was the last one, and
Yeah,
they
I
can't do
bet.
them anymore because of that one.
dude,
I
like
gave you one chance.
Yeah.
Gave you one chance.
Oh, like-
and you blew it.
like legit now I want them to kind of re-release some of the other ones. I would love to see Flashpoint. 'Cause that's like still probably my
bro,
favorite
Flashpoint.
DC film, animated film. Still,
Yeah,
it's
sure.
still probably Flashpoint. That
Mhm.
I need to watch it again now. I'm gonna watch after I get done here.
Yeah.
Get
I
off
watch-
here. Watch Flashpoint.
Right, show's over. Thanks, y'all. I'm gonna go watch Flashpoint.
Good.
I just leave my
Yeah,
mic
and
on.
I
You
think-
just hear it in the background.
I think they're. I think all of them are on HBO,
Yeah.
except for Long Halloween isn't up there yet.
Oh.
But yeah.
Boo.
So another thing. Speaking of just the adaptations and everything, just kind of going into a movie that absolutely nailed it, and it's probably one of my favorite adaptations to date. And it is so controversial to say that because people like to shit all over it, but the Watchmen movie.
Oh no, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Watchmen movie was awesome.
Yeah.
Now, like I said,
yeah.
you got the Snyder tropes, of course,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
to me, and I don't want to think that just him taking over the DC franchises soured me on it because I still have gone back and watched Watchmen. I'm one of the few people in the world who likes Sucker Punch, so it's not a Snyder thing, So I'm not like, but like, how come they hate on Watchmen, which was the best adaptation you can probably have gotten for that thing, with a change at the end, which without the Black Freighter, which I know they added that in, but again, with the ending being different, that was fucking pointless. So taking that out completely, the change at the ending makes sense. What else could they be mad about? Other than that, I think they had the characterizations. I think they had the mood. The fucking soundtrack just really just added so much more to that film. I think that's an excellent adaptation.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I feel about it too. I mean, and it was one of my favorite more comics in general. Just really dug the shit out of it. It's almost time for me to like go back and reread it and everything.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a very well done adaptation, and I just think some people are just wild on their opinion of it, to be honest.
Yeah. Did you like it, Nick?
I got The Watchmen, but I got a adaptation that was really excellent that people crap on a lot. Is that Green Lantern Ryan Reynolds movie? Just kidding, Terry. That was just Terry.
It was so good. You guys should have seen it in 3D when he made the train a quarter of the way through the movie. It was just bananas. But talking about another good movie adaptation that came out prior to Watchmen, V for Vendetta. It actually made a lot of changes between that movie and the comic. Honestly, not gonna lie, I feel like I kind of watched or liked the movie better.
Yeah, I've heard that. I never read the original, but I've heard that about the movie adaptation.
I think it's just really subject to like aging and kind of dating itself
Right.
over time. It's just like there's just scenes in there that I'm just kind of like, did we need this in the comic? But yeah, and I mean it's still a phenomenal comic, and I would go back and read it anytime. But man, I would watch that movie like any day of the week.
You know what adaptation I've been jumping in defense of, and Jerry, I do this for you and for your honor and for your birthday tradition. People
Okay.
are shitting on Scott Pilgrim.
Wow, why though?
I don't know. I mean, I've read all the book, and I thought the movie was an excellent adaptation of it. With
Yeah.
a lot more, stylized and changes to it. But yeah, I don't know
Mhm.
why. Just maybe my circle sucks. I don't know. If any of them are listening, you know who you are. Uh, but yeah, I've been hearing a lot of hate for Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and I thought that was an excellent adaptation. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that film.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of key point. I actually in the movie it gives everyone stats and everything.
Yeah.
I saw that movie on my birthday, on my 23rd birthday, and Scott Pilgrim was 23, so that's how I like keep up
Yeah.
with that. Like, oh yeah, yeah, I saw it at midnight at the theater, and I really fucking enjoyed it. Like, yeah, that's another one that I will always go back to, and it's interesting because I heard. Um, I've never looked this up to fact check it or anything, but they started writing the script for the movie before the comic was finished, so that's why the endings kind of diverge.
Right. Right.
But I mean, like, I like both endings. It's
Yeah.
literally
It was fine.
a sweet tooth thing for me where I would recommend both formats, and I think like if anything, the movie might hold up a little bit better just because like you're dealing with a series that involves a band and music a lot of the time, and
Right.
like I think in a format that actually has audio, that works really well. Not to mention that scene where they had Battle of the Bands was so dope.
And just a stellar fucking cast of
Yeah,
all the is it 7 or 8 X's or whatever it is, like from
seven
Superman
seven
to
deadly
Captain
evil eggs.
America. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I
Hmm.
mean, it's a great film, and I think that's a damn good adaptation. Uh,
Yeah.
did either one of you read From Hell? Because I really like the movie, but I've heard the book is not so great anymore.
I never did, and it's a shame because I had a roommate that owned it that was like, "Here, I'll lend this to you, and you can read it and everything since you're a fan of Alan Moore." Because it was Alan Moore that wrote it, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, and I just never got around to it.
Yeah, I like the Johnny Depp movie.
Yeah.
I've never read that, watched that, or even heard of that.
Really?
So
At least I can recommend the movie. Johnny Depp starring as a detective looking for Jack the Ripper. And it's based on a Alan Moore book.
So I'm coming to this whole idea of like Alan Moore like movie transitions are kind of very hit or miss. You want to know
Right.
the first one that I ever saw? Because I don't think I saw From Hell before this, and I actually saw this in theater because I thought it was dope as hell. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Uh, yeah, I re- I only recently read the book.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say this now, and I would die on
yeah,
this hill.
uh-huh.
It's not a good adaptation, but it's a
Yeah. Oh
but
no, I
it's
can
a
definitely tell.
but it's a decent action film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it was kind of subject to one of those things because I think this was around the same time that the X-Men movies were coming out and
Right.
and hitting big, and like the original Spider-Man movies and stuff with Tobey Maguire. So basically, what they were trying to do is they're like, we're gonna take this, but we're gonna put like a superhero
Yeah.
spin on it or whatever, and we're gonna like create this team of like kind of literary like fictional characters and stuff, and it's gonna be like the X-Men version of that or whatever. And it was like, yeah, this is real interesting.
Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure film because I know it's also not a good film,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I still enjoy it. And I've read the
Yeah,
book, and the book is good. The book is really good. But
yeah.
like, yeah, it's fine. To me, it's up there with Constantine. As long as you can
Uh,
forget anything you've ever read about Hellblazer,
yeah,
it's a fun film. It's a good
yeah,
movie, just not a good
yeah.
adaptation.
Right, right. Nick, do you have thoughts? Do you want to elaborate on any of this?
the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Speaking of that one, because I can
Mhm.
speak on that a little bit. I remember watching that movie when it first came out. I was a younger lad than I am now, and I used to really love that movie. And then I watched that movie like last year, and I'm like,
Oh yeah,
Why did I love that movie? I have no idea. I mean, it's not like it's horrible,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
ooh, I thought it was awesome back in the day, but
Oh yeah,
now I'm
yeah.
like, that was one of those Green Lantern Jerry moments, I guess, of my life. So
Oh man, there are so many of those moments that we don't have time to get into today, unfortunately.
so many moments.
whole
I just love being your friend on Facebook for
right.
that, for the memories
Yeah,
that you bring up, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, poor
yeah.
silly Jerry.
Yeah, they get brought up more often than not. Yeah, there's been very like just so much stuff. I mean, and going kind of back to Walking Dead, like that was something that they made a lot of changes in
Yeah.
from the source material. Like locales were basically the same, but the characters that they decided to focus on or add or kill off and stuff like that was very wildly different.
Right.
Um, and I don't know. Yeah, it was seriously one of those things where like, working at a comic book store at the time, it was like zombies, 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 like
Right.
and especially whenever that show hit, everybody wanted to fucking write a zombies comic, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, can we just stop? um so yeah, I fell off of that fairly quickly. I read the comic for longer, and I don't. It ended, right?
Yeah.
Didn't yeah, I still haven't finished it. I think I got all the way up to the one of the last wars that they did with the what are they
The
called? The
Whisperers.
Whisperers, the Whisperer War.
I think
Yeah.
there was one more after that, maybe two, and then
Okay.
it wrapped up. Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
a
I wasn't.
surprise wrapped up. Like
Yeah.
they did not announce it. It felt like a Shonen
Yeah.
Jump ending, where it was
No.
just like, oh, by the way,
Chopping block.
next issue, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
That's it.
it was actually like the same issue like it came out because they still had solicitations for other issues, but he
Oh,
knew it was going to end on that one. I think it was like
Yeah.
126 or something like that.
right.
But yeah, like then the book come out and like, oh, by the way, this is the last Walking Dead today.
This is
What? Oh, so all the orders that you had for future issues, those have been canceled.
Yeah, that literally happened to me today with the manga. Just to talk about sudden fucking endings.
Yeah.
Jerry got my message. Very upset.
Mhm.
It was a called a Nine Dragon Ball Parade, which is just a baseball manga. Which I'm not into sports, but I've been digging the hell out of this. And I read it. They like they won their first game. They're calling out who's clearly going to be the leader of the team they want to beat in the all region tournament. Like, we're coming for you, motherfucker. The end. Like, what? No, no.
Yeah. Manga ending is always such a sad thing because they'll either end abruptly or they'll fast forward to after like the big bad is taken care of, and they're like, "This
Right.
is what you could have gotten if this series would have kept going."
But
So,
yeah, but that's a
yeah,
whole other argument or
yeah,
discussion.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
talking about manga, which we're probably going to get into on another show. But yeah, like I think adaptations have gotten a lot better. You brought up Spawn, actually, and he being the first image, which not surprising. McFarlane was definitely the pioneer of that company of like, hey, look at my shit, look at my shit, look at my shit. And so he got the first movie, he got the first animated, and I came home not too long ago to my wife Vanetta watching it, and I hadn't watched it since I was sneaking HBO, when I wasn't allowed to watch that kind of stuff. And I watched it, and she was watching it too, and I was sitting there like, this is garbage. She was like, it's got a good voice cast, but I was like, yeah, this is fucking horrible. That show does not hold up. But it's a faithful adaptation because that book, those early issues, don't hold up either, in my opinion.
that's fair enough.
It really
Um,
complained about that.
and honestly, kind of, bridging off of adaptations again,
Yeah.
something that was a um kind of like a telling of after the adaptation was over, that Watchmen series that they did, where they kind of continued the series. So we've definitely had comics that have taken place after that, which were kind of
Right.
weird. And we've had comics that have taken place before that. This was a show that essentially took place um, so many years after the comic was over, and man, they kind of nailed it with this show. and
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm kind of glad that they didn't specifically announce like another season or anything, because it told its story and it told it really well. I thought it was just brilliant how it was done, and the cast was so exceptional. And just the writing and the pacing of the episodes, I fucking enjoyed the shit out of it. Did you guys? I know Sean watched it. Did you watch it, Nick?
Did not. I have that on my list of things to watch
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
I
Because
would.
I mean I have HBO Max now, So I
Mhm.
mean, I can watch it, but I didn't have HBO at the time that it was coming on. So
Yeah, I would definitely recommend bumping that up on the to watch list. Is a
Yeah.
excellent show, and I think it's like only what 6 or 8 episodes. Like it's not even a very long series. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend bumping that one up for sure.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and that's what I really like too. Like adaptations are great, and when they can make changes that are still in the spirit is fine. But like when we get an actual spin off like that in a in a different medium, not just a spin off comic,
Mhm.
that is just like to me is like bonus. Because for some reason, before Watchmen and then the what Doomsday Clock, like
Mhm.
I didn't give a
Mhm.
shit about either of those, and not even like
Mhm.
not even to enough to even give them a read. 'Cause I'm like, this doesn't sound interesting. Like just kind of getting the general premise of what they were going to be about. Because I'm not super big on prequels. It just really depends on the series. I didn't feel like Watchmen needed that,
Yeah.
and like I wasn't opposed to a sequel idea until I read what all was going down with it. And I was like, okay,
Mhm.
it's tying them into the DC universe. I don't give a shit about
Mhm.
that, but a continuation specifically from the comic, uh, you know, years later and just dealing with everything that it dealt with, that was super interesting. That was what I would
Yeah.
want from a follow up to a
Yeah.
to a
Yeah.
seminal one and done book. Because that's really hard to do. Because Watchmen, it was made at the beginning, had a beginning and an end, and that was all he wanted to tell.
Mhm.
And I know more. Well, he hates anything anyone does to any of his work, but
Right.
and I'm sure he shat on the TV show too. But that was a damn good like follow up, a damn good like spin off.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It was very good without being, because honestly, like if you'd never even seen the movie, I feel like it would still be a good show to watch.
No, absolutely.
Just a great drama series, and I feel like they touch on enough stuff that would have happened, that it was just very, very well done. It brought in, like, I feel like the perfect people for all of the roles of the characters that were in the original like movie and everything, original source material and stuff. Yeah, they just all kind of hit the mark on it, and it's cool, and it's very rare that we get something that's like this takes place after the fact. And yeah, it was. I mean, I can't praise it enough for what it did, because I know it was one of those things of like it was something that I, really loved the comic too and the movie too and everything. So I was very skeptical on what they were going to do with it and what kind of liberties they were going to take with the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, if Nick, do you have any adaptation you wanted to throw in on?
I just want to say that Jupiter's Legacy on Netflix. I know a lot of people didn't like that. I just watched it this week. I really liked it, but I know a lot of people didn't. If you didn't like it, you should definitely read the book though, because the books were amazing.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I've
That,
heard, and that's
that's what
why
I
I kind
hear.
of wanted to pick them up. But we only got a few
Yeah.
minutes left, Nick, and I wanted to go ahead and give you the opportunity because as it's recording, the episode where we talked about your Kickstarter is going live. Spoilers, we like it, but I just kind of wanted to give you this last few minutes left on the show to talk about it, talk about maybe your creation process, or just tell us a little bit about the book from your from the creator standpoint. We've never had a comic book creator on our show, so I would love to actually if you just want to kind of throw that out for a little bit to the audience.
Yeah, so yeah, we do. You have your recording process is a little bit different, so I'm not for sure exactly what you said on the book. But so we're just going to go off the story. So the Vengeance Emergence story, I actually wrote as a movie back in 2006.
Oh,
So it's 2021. Math would tell you that's 15 years. I was going to do it as a movie back then, and I casted a bunch of people in all the roles and stuff. And just different things didn't happen. Mainly, it was because there was only just a few people that were actual actors. It was just people I knew. Also because all the people that I wrote as characters were based off of people that were in my life at that time, different people. So either by names or personalities. Yeah, that didn't happen. I ended up writing a couple more movies based in the same universe, in the same as sequels. Then I was kept as the years go by. It didn't all happen at the same time. So then I was gonna. Then I wrote it. I kept up coming up with stuff because I have a creative mind, and my mind just kept going and building on this universe. I mean, because it's a superhero universe, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to happen, and this is what I want to happen, and I basically wrote out storylines, and I had enough storylines that I had a vengeance, emergence, vengeance, synergy, and vengeance revelations, and I had character. Arcs for everybody that would be in the three things. And then I just kept adding more stuff to it all. And then I had it developed into a TV series, which enough mythology that I built up that I could probably make about 100 episodes of TV right now. With all that I have written down. I mean, like I have like a book full of stuff on these characters and different storylines for each episode and everything, and all the names and everything. So yeah, so and then but I tried to do that too several years later. It didn't stuff didn't happen. I've been through a lot of stuff, so just personal wise and stuff like that. So it ended up didn't make it. Then I was going to write it as a book, but then like I started writing it, I was like, oh, this just doesn't feel right. So it kind of put the idea to bed. Then a couple years ago, I thought to myself, I could do this as a comic book. Comic book's actually my favorite format of stuff. Why would I just not do this as a comic book? He's a superhero. And so, that seems like a smart idea. So I got this thing from Greg Pak, or Peck, however you say his last name, of how to write a comic book script because I've written plenty of movie scripts. I mean, you guys have seen some of the things that I've written.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, some of the things I've created. So, I knew how to do that, but I wanted to figure out how to put it into a comic book script. So I did that, and so I wrote in that. I think it was a week. I wrote the first 6 issues of Vengeance, which isn't even that first arc. The first movie I broke down into 24 issues.
Wow.
Yes, so it's like 4 arcs to equal the one movie. So you think my 6 issues, when we get all those done, it'll literally be 1/4 of the original movie that I wrote.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I did, and then I started trying to find an artist, and so eventually found one through Twitter. His name is Nate Niles. I think you find him on Twitter, Pixel Artist 95, I believe. So he did the art. Now Nate does some other stuff. Anyway, it took a really long time to get the art. He started this in early 2019. I think it was November of 2020 when I got the last page.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So it was a real long time.
Right.
So I had the art. Then I met Jake Jackson, who does the inks on the comic book. Anyway, I met him through Retrograde Comics. This guy does art. He would like to work on your comic. Talk to him and all stuff. Anyway, he gave me a price, and I was like, I can't do that right now. It's like, so I can't do that price. So we kind of put the comic to bed. I was involved in some other things with some people who were my friends. Then back in February, I believe it was, some things happened with me. And I'm not going to go into that because I don't care about that.
Right.
But I'm no longer involved with those people. By force, I can't be with those people anymore, doing things or friendships or anything. That's a whole nother story. Doesn't really matter. All that matters is that it kind of upset me. And it kind of, it broke me there for several days. I even talked to Sean during that time. And Sean kind of uplifted me there during those times. So I appreciate that, by the way.
Oh, man. No problem, man. You were, like I said, not getting into any of the personal stuff, dude, but you were a creative talent. I know you were not in a place, and I've been there. I've been in dark places myself where you don't want to create. And I wasn't gonna let you fall like that, brother.
So I was going to quit doing all things because, I've done podcasts, films, and all kinds of different junk. So I wasn't going to do anything anymore. And then Jake saw that on Facebook and messaged me and was like, look, man, I'm going to do your inks on the comic book. You can just pay me whenever you want. We came up on a decided rate, was even cheaper than what he originally quoted me. And he said, and then just pay me whenever you get money. If not, whatever. Anyway, so then we formed Original Geek. It was like, all right, let's do this, and then we'll just keep going on it. We'll do more. I'll ink this comic, and I'll do the art from now on this comic. And I had other comic ideas that had come up with and told him about before, like last year, and he was down for those. And then we came up with another comic idea. So basically, and then I was like, okay, we need a name, and I came up with Original Geek Comics because last year I did a video cast called Original Geek Video Cast, and to me the name Original Geek means because you were a geek before I was a geek before it became cool to be a geek, and everybody watches Marvel movies and stuff like now, and
Yeah.
it's all cool that we're all geeks. It's all cool that we can walk around with our superhero shirts and everybody else is but okay. But back when I did it in school, you got made fun of, so it was a different world back then. So I'm an original geek. I'm not a geek bred from mainstream. So that's the name. That's the reason why we name. And so that's Jake quickly inked those first 22 pages of the first issue, and he designed our cover. And now here we are in July, and we're doing the Kickstarter. So for the book.
Oh yeah, man. Like I said, we got into just a little bit about the storyline and everything, and like we talked about again, we record a week in advance, so that episode is actually going live today of recording. But me and Jerry both enjoyed it. We really appreciate that you gave us the early copy for us to kind of review and talk about, and I was of course fully transparent that I've been somewhat involved in the project, for a little bit, and you're my friend, you're our friend, so like but we still, it's a good book. It's a great start. I can't wait to see, because I don't even know how I know some stuff, some directions from what what you and me have talked about, and what I've thrown a little bit of character design help and stuff early in the process. But yeah, I can't wait to see it as it come out. As of now, I think we're still sitting at about what, you're about 85% funded.
Yeah. So this morning, this is the day after 4th of July. Yeah. Hope you all had a great holiday.
Right.
So that was about a week ago now that you're listening to it, and we're at 85% funded. So hopefully at this time that you're listening to it, we're actually 100% funded or even over. And anything that we go over, so if you haven't, you have until July 30th to contribute to the campaign. You can find it. I tag Sean on everything. Right. Even me talking on a video, I'm tagging Sean in it. So if we're not friends on Facebook, you can see Sean. Just go to his Facebook and see it. Original Geek Comics is on Instagram, and you can easily find the Kickstarter. And we'd love your help to bring it to life. Anything, as I said, go over that, we're going to put into issue 2. I mean, it's a great story. I've been building it for 15 years, so that I have a lot of creative input into the story. Right. And as long as we just keep going, I mean, like keep cranking the money, and the money literally, your money is literally only going towards the printing of the books and the T-shirts that we have and stuff like that. All the art is being paid by me, and I'm not making any money off of it. Jake makes money off of me giving him money, and so you're literally just paying to the creation of the book, printing it out, giving it to you, and say, here you go, thank you very much.
Enjoy this thing that I created.
Yes, enjoy these characters that I literally poured my heart and soul into. That the main character's name is Nick, so that's how much I poured myself into the character.
Oh, for sure. Well, yeah, man, I will definitely be dropping the link to the Kickstarter in this video, and it is in the old one, so if you don't look at this one for some reason, they'll see it from last week's video. Keep supporting it. Support your indie creators. I gotta pimp myself. Buy my book cover, but you can get all 3. It doesn't matter. You can just make sure you get one of mine. You can.
A lot of people got all 3, so we really appreciate it. But yeah, definitely get the Lytton cover, as I call it on the reward. The Lytton cover.
Right. All right, y'all. Well, that's going to do it for today. Nick, thank you for coming to join us finally. I'm pretty sure we've been talking about getting you on the show for a while now. We hope. Yep. Sorry?
I was just going to say, yep. We've been talking for a while. Hope to come back.
Oh, for sure. Well, if y'all liked what you heard, of course, give us the thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and go check out the Vengeance Emergence Kickstarter link in the description of this video. We'll catch y'all next time.
Peace.